A man who grew up sleeping on cardboard boxes in Manila, who sold donuts and cleaned gyms just to survive, climbed to the top of boxing and won world titles in 8 weight divisions. Manny Pacquiao made hundreds of millions of dollars, became a national hero, entered politics, and then watched his lawsuits, tax problems, broken contracts, failed campaigns, and personal demons chip away at nearly everything he built. So, let's look at how the most celebrated fighter in the Philippines ended up fighting battles he could never win with his fists. There is a specific kind of poverty that shapes a person down to the bone. Not the kind where you skip a vacation or drive a used car. The kind where your father kills the family dog because there is no food left in the house. Emmanuel Dapadran Pacquiao was born on December 17, 1978, in Kibawe, Bukidnon, on the island of Mindanao, Philippines, the 4th child in a family of 6 siblings. His family's poverty was so severe that his father was forced to kill their pet dog for food. The island of Mindanao, where Pacquiao spent his earliest years, is the 2nd largest island in the Philippines and one of its poorest regions. While the capital city of Manila gleamed with wealth and opportunity, Mindanao was, and in many ways still is, a world apart. The poverty in rural Mindanao wasn't just economic, it was existential. Families didn't wonder how they would afford luxuries. They wondered if they would eat that day. His parents separated when he was in 6th grade after his father had an affair. His mother, Dionysia, was left to raise 6 children on her own. The separation wasn't just emotionally devastating. It was financially catastrophic. A single mother with 6 mouths to feed in one of the poorest regions of the Philippines had no government safety net to fall back on. No welfare system, no unemployment benefits. There was only survival. Manny sold bread on the streets. The kind of work children do when childhood itself is a luxury the family cannot afford. He collected scrap paper to sell by weight. He took any odd job that would pay even a few pesos. And when the choice came between continuing his education or helping his family survive, there was no choice at all. He dropped out of school in 6th grade due to extreme poverty. There was no safety net. There was no plan. There was survival, and that was it. At age 12, having abandoned any hope of formal education, he dropped out of school to pursue a career in boxing and moved in with his uncle Sado Mejia in a 1-story home in the southern Philippine city of General Santos. Mejia, who had no formal training as a fighter, would go on to become the future star's first boxing trainer. The training was rudimentary. There was no state-of-the-art gym, no nutritionist, no sports psychologist. There was a makeshift ring, worn gloves, and a dream that seemed impossible from where they were standing. At BY-15, Pacquiao was regarded as one of the best junior boxers in the country and frequently competed in a public park in General Santos. The fights in the park were brutal, unregulated affairs where spectators bet on the outcomes and fighters earned whatever the crowd was willing to throw their way. It was here in these dusty public parks that Pacquiao learned what would become his signature style: relentless aggression, blinding hand speed, and a complete unwillingness to back down no matter how much punishment he absorbed. However, the teenager sought greater success than what General Santos could offer. So, he stowed away on a ship bound for Manila. This wasn't a ticketed journey with a plan and connections waiting on the other side. This was a desperate gamble by a 14-year-old boy who believed that Manila, the capital city where dreams either came true or died in the gutter, was his only shot at something better. When he arrived in the city, he slept on cardboard boxes. The cardboard wasn't metaphorical. It was literal. Streets became his bedroom. Doorways became his shelter. He sold donuts in the morning, hawking them to commuters and office workers for a few pesos per sale. He cleaned boxing gyms in exchange for permission to train there, scrubbing floors and washing equipment in order to survive, all while continuing to improve his skills and rise through the ranks. At the age of 14, Pacquiao moved to Manila and lived on the streets, worked as a construction worker, and had to pick between eating or sending money to his mother. Every peso he earned was a choice: feed himself today or let his mother eat tomorrow. Some days he chose his mother. Those were the days he went hungry. That is the world Manny Pacquiao came from. That is the foundation on which everything else was built. The following year, at just 16 years old, Pacquiao turned professional and made his official debut as a junior flyweight. His professional debut took place when he faced Edmund Ignacio. Pacquiao won by decision, earning what by Western standards would be considered almost nothing, but by his own standards represented more money than he had ever held at one time. The path from there was neither smooth nor guaranteed. He won the WBC flyweight title, his first major championship, defeating defending champion Chachai Sasakal. He was barely out of his teenage years and already a world champion. The win was a seismic event in the Philippines. Here was a kid from the slums, a school dropout who had slept on cardboard boxes, now holding a world title. The narrative was irresistible, but things moved fast and success came with its own dangers. The hunger that had driven Pacquiao to the top also made him reckless. Still early in his professional career, he faced Rustico Torrecampo, who only had 5 knockouts in his career and was not considered a serious threat, but he scored several significant strikes and knocked Pacquiao out in the 3rd round. That was his first professional loss. For a fighter who had staked everything on boxing, who had no backup plan and no education to fall back on, a knockout loss was more than just a defeat. It was an existential threat. Most fighters would have crumbled. Pacquiao lifted himself back up after his first loss by going on a win streak. Within this time frame, he also won the WBC flyweight title by defeating defending champion Chachai Sasakal. The win streak rebuilt his confidence and his reputation. Promoters started paying attention. The Filipino press started calling him a national treasure. Then came the second crushing knockout. In his second defense at the age of 21, Pacquiao took on Medgone Singsurat. Singsurat held an unblemished record and was the same age as Manny when he fought for his first world title. The fight was supposed to cement Pacquiao's status as a dominant flyweight champion. It did the opposite. Unfortunately for Pacquiao, he was once again knocked out in the 3rd round, losing his world title within a year of claiming it despite enjoying domination in the opening rounds. The pattern was troubling. Pacquiao would start strong, overwhelm his opponent with speed and volume, and then in the 3rd round, something would go wrong. A single punch would change everything. He would hit the canvas and the title would be gone. Most fighters would have been buried by 2 knockout losses before turning 22. Pacquiao was not most fighters. He rebuilt. He moved up in weight. And here's where the truly remarkable part of the Pacquiao story begins. Most boxers spend their entire careers in one weight class. Moving up even a single division is considered a major risk. Pacquiao would eventually conquer 8. He kept winning and the world started paying attention. The wins piled up. The titles accumulated. The weight classes changed. But the results didn't. Over the course of an illustrious career, Pacquiao dominated his competition, rising to become an 8-weight world champion, a lineal champion in 5 separate weight classes, and the only boxer to hold world championships across 4 decades. His pay-per-view fights generated more than $1 billion in revenue. Think about that number for a moment. $1 billion. From a kid who once had to choose between eating and sending money to his mother, the financial transformation was staggering, almost incomprehensible. Pacquiao has defeated 22 world champions including Juan Manuel Marquez, David Diaz, Oscar de la Hoya, Ricky Hatton, Miguel Cotto, Joshua Clottey, Antonio Margarito, Shane Mosley, Brandon Rios, Timothy Bradley, Chris Algieri, Jesse Vargas, Lucas Mathis, Adrian Broner, and most recently Keith Thurman. Some of those names, De La Hoya, Hatton, Cotto, and Mosley, were already legends when Pacquiao fought them. He didn't just beat them, he dismantled them. Pacquiao made history by being the first boxer ever to win world titles in 8 divisions, having won 12 major world titles. He was named one of Time's 100 most influential people for his exploits in boxing and his influence among the Filipino people. The Time recognition wasn't just about boxing. It was about what Pacquiao represented, proof that even the most crushing poverty could be overcome. He became a national symbol. When he fought, crime in the Philippines stopped. This wasn't folklore or exaggeration. Police departments reported measurable drops in crime rates during Pacquiao fights. Streets emptied. Entire cities went silent except for the roar from television sets. The whole country held its breath. Criminals took the night off because even they wanted to watch Manny fight. And then with the money pouring in and the fame reaching absurd heights, Manny Pacquiao started to destroy himself. The money hit Manny Pacquiao like a truck with no brakes. A series of successful matches turned Pacquiao into a wealthy athlete, party animal, gambler, and serial womanizer. The kid who once chose between eating and sending money to his mother was now drowning in excess. The transformation wasn't gradual. It was sudden, total, and destructive. "There was a problem in our family because the fame went to my head," Pacquiao admitted. "I know how to gamble. I know how to drink, a lot of girls, things like that." It was not casual indulgence. It was a full-blown lifestyle overhaul. Manny gave himself over to the life of partying, drinking, gambling, and womanizing. The parties were legendary. The drinking was constant. The gambling became pathological, and the women were everywhere. Cockfighting consumed his free time. In the Philippines, cockfighting or sabong is a deeply rooted cultural tradition, but Pacquiao took it to an extreme. He owned thousands of roosters. He built elaborate facilities to house them. He would bet enormous sums on individual fights, sometimes losing hundreds of thousands of dollars in a single afternoon. The addiction wasn't about the money. He had more money than he could spend. It was about the rush, the thrill, the same adrenaline that drove him in the boxing ring. Nights at casinos consumed his earnings. Pacquiao would fly to Macau, Las Vegas, or Manila's own casinos and lose millions at the tables. Friends and associates described seeing him drop $100,000, $200,000, sometimes more in a single night. When you're earning tens of millions per fight, those losses seem manageable, but they added up. And the gambling wasn't limited to casinos and fighting. Pacquiao would bet on basketball games, on card games, on anything that offered action. Women who were not his wife consumed his attention. The affairs were not discreet. In some cases, they were barely hidden. Pacquiao has a child out of wedlock. And also, according to reports that his friends and associates confirmed, he had an extramarital affair with an actress he met more than a decade ago. The actress was well known in the Philippines. The affair was an open secret within Pacquiao's inner circle. Pacquiao's dalliances were not unknown to wife Jinky, but it was Pacquiao's affair with the actress that almost broke his marriage. This was not tabloid gossip from unnamed sources. This was confirmed by people who worked directly with Pacquiao who saw the relationship firsthand. At the time, there were even separate teams rooting for the wife and for the actress within the athlete's boxing camp. As the actress would also join the trainings, the boxing camp, the place where Pacquiao was supposed to be focused on preparing for fights, had become a soap opera. Trainers, sparring partners, managers, and staff split into factions. Some sided with Jinky, the loyal wife, who had stood by Pacquiao since before the money came. Others were charmed by the actress who was beautiful, attentive, and present in ways that Jinky, who was raising their children, could not always be. A Philippine Star article said that Pacquiao had plans to leave the family to be with the actress. By then, the husband and wife were no longer talking for months. Months of silence in a marriage. Months where Pacquiao's children watched their parents live in the same house but refused to speak to one another. His own wife gave an interview where she described the depth of the betrayal. Jinky said they had plans of moving in together. There were other girls who were linked with him before, but even Manny said that woman is different. The woman is caring and she hangs out with the boys of the team when there is a boxing fight. The fact that even Pacquiao admitted this woman was different revealed how serious the affair had become. This wasn't just another fling. This was a relationship that threatened to permanently destroy his family. Pacquiao's marriage teetered on the edge. His finances were hemorrhaging from gambling and lavish spending. The man who had once been so careful with money, who had sent every spare peso to his mother even when he was starving, was now burning through millions with nothing to show for it. When members of his own family needed help, when people from his hometown came to him with emergencies, Manny, a champion boxer, was unable to help because he had spent all his money on frivolous things, gambling, and women. That was his lowest point. To realize he had finally achieved fame and yet had failed his family. The realization hit him during a particularly dark moment alone in a hotel room somewhere between fights, between parties, between affairs. Then came the reckoning. Pacquiao said, "I was alone in my room and I was crying uncontrollably. I asked myself, what should I do?" During this time, Pacquiao didn't like himself and described himself as an alcoholic, a womanizer, and a gambling addict. The self-awareness was brutal and complete. He looked at himself, at what he had become, and was disgusted. The kid from the slums, who had overcome impossible odds to become a world champion, had turned into exactly the kind of person he would have once despised. His associates described the transformation as abrupt and total. Pacquiao underwent what his friends call radical change. The shift wasn't gradual. It was sudden, dramatic, and to those who knew him, almost unbelievable. On his birthday, Pacquiao received a Bible gift that would later prove pivotal in his transformation. Growing up in a Roman Catholic family, he became a Christian, surprising his family, friends, and associates. The surprise wasn't that he became religious. Filipinos are overwhelmingly Christian, and Pacquiao had been raised Catholic. The surprise was the intensity of his conversion, the completeness with which he embraced it. Manny described the dream like this: I was in a jungle. I saw the light brighter than the sun. It penetrated my bones and my body. I heard God's voice saying, "Son, why did you leave me? Why are you away from me?" The dream shook him to his core. In interviews afterward, Pacquiao would describe it as the most vivid, most real experience of his life, more real than any boxing match, more real than any victory or defeat. He woke up convinced that God had spoken to him directly, that he had been given a second chance, and that if he didn't take it, there would be no third. After that dream, everything shifted. Arnold Vigafria, Pacquiao's longtime business manager, said since then, he stopped all his vices. Pacquiao had also given away his thousands of roosters used for fighting. Thousands of birds worth millions of pesos, just gave them away. Now he would reprimand his staff who drank or gambled. The man who had once led the parties was now shutting them down. The change extended to every aspect of his life. He stopped drinking entirely. The gambling stopped. The affairs stopped. He reconciled with Jin Ki, begged for her forgiveness, and committed himself to rebuilding their marriage. He started attending church services regularly, not just for show, but with genuine devotion. He began reading the Bible daily, sometimes for hours at a time. Manny and Jin Ki were able to iron things out. The reconciliation wasn't easy. Jin Ki had every reason to walk away, to take the children and half of everything Pacquiao owned, but she stayed. A few months later, the actress married a friend of Pacquiao in the US. The marriage effectively ended the affair and removed the temptation from Pacquiao's life. People close to Pacquiao credited Jin Ki for the continued success of the senator. From standing by her husband, investing his money wisely, to taking care of the family. Without Jin Ki, they said Pacquiao would have lost most if not all of his money due to his previous extravagant ways. She became the financial gatekeeper, the person who said no when Manny couldn't say it himself. But while Pacquiao may have found God, God did not erase the consequences of his earlier choices. The financial damage was already done. The years of gambling, the years of extravagant spending, the years of supporting an entourage that numbered in the dozens, all of it had taken a toll, and a far bigger financial storm was forming on the horizon, one that would make his gambling losses look like pocket change. While Manny Pacquiao was being celebrated around the world, while he was finding God and rebuilding his marriage, the tax authorities in the Philippines and the United States were building cases against him. The sums involved were staggering, the kind of numbers that would bankrupt most people. Filipino boxer Manny Pacquiao was facing some serious tax issues to the tune of millions in unpaid tax debt. Both his homeland, the Philippines, and the IRS were out to get their cut. And with his level of celebrity, his financial situation was taking a beating. The tax problems had been building for years, unnoticed or ignored until they reached a critical mass that could no longer be avoided. The breakdown was punishing. A year-by-year breakdown detailing his tax debts from 2006 to 2010 revealed massive amounts owed in the US alone. Those were just the American debts. Each year the number grew larger. Each year the interest and penalties compounded, and those figures were only what the IRS was claiming. The Philippine side was far worse. The Bureau of Internal Revenue, BIR, filed charges against Sarangani representative and boxing icon Manny Pacquiao for violating the National Internal Revenue Code. The BIR wanted to investigate numerous tax records, including Pacquiao's annual income tax return, his book of accounts, list of assets, as well as his earnings from his fights against Antonio Margarito and Joshua Clottey. The investigation was thorough, aggressive, and very public. The bear's position was simple. Pacquiao had earned hundreds of millions of dollars fighting in the United States, and he owed taxes on those earnings to the Philippines. Pacquiao's position was equally simple. He had already paid taxes on those earnings to the United States, and a tax treaty between the two countries meant he shouldn't have to pay twice. The legal battle would drag on for years. The Philippine Bureau of Internal Revenue, BIR, froze Manny Pacquiao's Philippine bank accounts due to alleged failure to pay billions in taxes from his earnings in the United States. Consider what that means for a moment. One of the richest athletes in the Philippines had his bank accounts frozen by his own government. Not just one account, all of them. Every peso he had in the country was suddenly inaccessible. Authorities were seeking millions in back taxes and had frozen his bank accounts as the claim remained pending. They were convinced that Pacquiao was hiding just how much he had earned. The Bureau had surveyed many different banks and only 2 deposits were in Pacquiao's name for a grand total of a relatively small amount. The disparity was suspicious. A fighter earning tens of millions per bout should have had far more than that in Philippine bank accounts. The BIR suspected, probably correctly, that Pacquiao's money was being held elsewhere in other people's names, in offshore accounts, anywhere but where the Philippine government could easily tax it. The timing of the frozen accounts was devastating. Manny Pacquiao claimed he had to borrow tens of thousands of dollars to send relief to victims of Typhoon Haiyan because his bank accounts had been frozen by the Philippine government as it pursued back taxes it claimed he owed. Typhoon Haiyan, known in the Philippines as Typhoon Yolanda, killed more than 6,000 people and left millions homeless. And Manny Pacquiao, the national hero, the people's champion, couldn't send money to help because the government had seized every peso he had. A national hero who couldn't help his own people during one of the worst natural disasters in Philippine history because the government had seized every cent he had in the country. The irony was cruel. The man who had once been so poor he had to choose between eating and sending money to his mother was now so entangled in financial and legal problems that he couldn't help even when he wanted to. Manny himself said that he wasn't required to pay any additional taxes to the Philippines, especially not the amount claimed, because of a treaty that prevents double taxation. His promoter Bob Arum had submitted correspondence showing taxes had been withheld in the US. The US-Philippines tax treaty is clear. Income earned and taxed in one country should not be taxed again in the other. But the Philippine BIR demanded certified IRS documents and those documents were slow in coming. The bureaucracy was grinding and relentless because of new federal tax rates. Pacquiao specifically requested not to fight in the US anymore. The tax pressure was so intense it was dictating where he could even earn a living. Think about that. Pacquiao, one of the biggest pay-per-view draws in boxing history, was refusing to fight in the United States, the most lucrative boxing market in the world, because the tax burden had become unbearable. Meanwhile, on the American side, Pacquiao's tax troubles had already spawned their own lawsuits. According to one suit, Manny's tax issues seriously affected his ability to fight. The accountants claimed they straightened out his money problems and even let Pacquiao borrow some cash, but Manny never paid them back and totally ignored the bill. Pacquiao had to borrow money from the accountants. Then, in a move that would damage his reputation significantly, he decided that he wasn't going to pay the accountants back. So they filed a lawsuit. Pacquiao was reportedly in debt to his accountants. Not paying the accountants was short-sighted and petty. These were the people who had helped him navigate his tax nightmare, who had loaned him money when his own accounts were frozen, and he stiffed them. The tax war dragged on for nearly a decade. The stress was constant. The legal fees were astronomical. The public relations damage was severe. Pacquiao, who had been regarded as a hero, was now being discussed in the Philippine press as a potential tax cheat, as someone who had made hundreds of millions of dollars and refused to pay his fair share. Pacquiao, who was then a senator, approached Philippine authorities to settle his tax case with the BIR. The BIR maintained that taxes were due even if taxes were paid to the IRS. The negotiations were tense and complex, involving teams of lawyers on both sides. It wasn't until years later that the matter was finally resolved. A Philippine court voided billions in assessments issued to boxing legend Manny Pacquiao, saying the tax agency lacked sufficient basis for the claim and violated his due process rights. The Court of Tax Appeals ruled that Pacquiao and his wife Jinky were not properly informed about the basis of the assessment, which had been issued only in the boxer's name. The assessment was thrown out. Pacquiao had won. On paper, it was a complete victory, but the damage was already done. Years of frozen accounts, years of criminal complaints, years of public perception that one of the Philippines' greatest heroes was a tax cheat had taken their toll. The win in court didn't erase the years of stress, the years of legal fees, the years of negative press, and the lawsuits were far from over. The tax battle had been one front in a much larger war. Other legal challenges were already forming, and the next one would strike at the heart of Pacquiao's boxing career itself. The MGM Grand Garden Arena in Las Vegas. Floyd Mayweather Jr. vs. Manny Pacquiao. Billed as the fight of the century or the battle for greatness. It was a professional boxing match between the undefeated 5-division world champion Mayweather and 8-division world champion Pacquiao. The fight had taken years to make. Years of negotiations, accusations, demands, and counter-demands. Years of fans begging for the matchup. Years of both fighters at or near their peaks, and years of that window slowly closing. By the time the fight actually happened, some critics argue that both men